So you may have been scheduled for a colonoscopy and could be wondering, oh man, what is going to happen during this procedure? Do you need a colonoscopy? Why are we doing this if you feel good? Well, in this video today, I'm going to answer all those questions on why you should get a colonoscopy to make sure we can prevent the second leading cause of cancer death, which is colon cancer. And at the very end of the video, I'll discuss my recommendation on doing a colonoscopy versus doing what's called the COLOGUARD, the at-home stool test. Guys, let's talk about food. Howdy y'all, Dr. Samir here, aka your poop guru. Yay! Trying to give you the best tips and tricks to help out with your health. If you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button. You know you want to. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you haven't already, for goodness sake, don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter where you can get great tips and tricks like you're learning in this video. So getting a colonoscopy, I'm sure, is one of the highlights of your life. Yes, I know. So many people come to see me dreading that colonoscopy test. You've heard horror stories about the prep. Maybe your sedation was not that great. Maybe you didn't understand why you want to get this done. Let's answer all the big questions on why we want to do a colonoscopy. So why exactly do we do it? We do it because we want to make sure we can prevent cancer. If you're feeling good, if you're feeling fine, you're not having any gut issues, that is the best time to do it because it most likely means nothing bad is going on. The problem with colon cancer is that it comes from precancerous polyps. Polyps are growths inside the colon that typically do not have symptoms until it's too late. So if you're feeling great, that's fantastic, but you could be having a polyp growing inside that colon, and over time, that polyp will develop into cancer. And so the whole point of getting a colonoscopy is to screen for cancer before it becomes an issue for you. The worst conversation I have with any patients is to tell them they have a cancer that could have been prevented if they got their routine screening done. So when exactly do we need to get a colonoscopy? Well, colonoscopies typically need to be done if you don't have a family history of colon cancer starting at the age of 45. We've had recent changes in the guidelines because of the rise of colon cancer in younger individuals. We're seeing more and more younger people develop colon cancer, and we don't know exactly why. Is this a new cancer? Is this a mutation? Could it be due to changes in the diet? We don't know, but recently the colonoscopy screening guidelines changed from 50 years old to 45 years old. So anybody at the age of 45, even if you're feeling good, needs to be screened for colon cancer. Now, it's very different if you have other conditions, like you have a family history of colon cancer, especially in a first-degree relative. Most likely you need to be screened sooner, or if you have other inflammatory conditions, you may need to get your colonoscopy done before the age of 45. But in the general population, you're feeling good, just chilling out, hanging out. If you're at 45, that's when you need to see someone like me to get your screening test done. So how exactly do you know which test is best for you? The best answer to this question is to do the test that you are comfortable with. Now, I'm a GI doctor. I am a big proponent of colonoscopy. With this procedure, we can find out what's going on, but more importantly, we can take care of it at the time of the procedure. 2 for 1 is what we do. All the other tests that you have to do, whether it's a stool test or a stool sample, those will allow you to detect what's going on, but it can't fix the problem right then and there. But there are plenty of people out there who say, hey, I absolutely 100% will not get a colonoscopy, and I completely understand that. At least get some sort of screening test, whether it's a stool test or a stool DNA test, something that allows us to see what is going on. Now, my caveat for those of you guys who are going to go for a stool testing is know a couple of things. Number one, there are both false positives and false negatives. What I mean by that is that you could have a positive stool testing, meaning something could be going on, but in essence, nothing is found on the other colonoscopy. Number two, any positive test means you must have a colonoscopy, and you actually may have to pay for that out of pocket or have some sort of payment from that because it's not considered a screening test. Number three, just because you have a normal stool testing does not mean you're good forever. No, These tests need to be checked every couple of years. But more important than that, do the tests that you are comfortable with. My job as a doctor is to make sure you get screened. Whichever modality you want to do it to protect you and your loved ones. So what about this COLOGUARD test, this stool in a box? You may have seen this, where you literally take a dump in a box and send it to a lab. What is going on here? Well, a COLOGUARD test is a test to detect abnormal DNA that's secreted in the stool. Polyps will secrete abnormal DNA, or even cancers can do that as well. That DNA will be seen in the stool sample. So what you in essence do is that you literally take a dump in a box, send it to the company, they analyze that stool to see if you have abnormal DNA in that stool. And if you do, that necessarily means you need to get a colonoscopy to find out exactly why. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button and comment down below. For those who should opt for a COLOGUARD are those who have no symptoms, have no family history of colon cancer, and who do not or cannot get a scope. Now what I mean by that, there are plenty of patients out there who don't want to get a colonoscopy. I understand. But there are those patients in which the risk of the colonoscopy may be too much. Maybe they can't handle the sedation, or they can't handle the preparation we have to give them to clean themselves out. These are the ones that need to undergo the COLOGUARD test. Now a COLOGUARD test is done once every 3 years. What that means for you is that if you have a normal or a negative COLOGUARD test, you're not free forever, nor are you free for 10 years, which you would be for a normal colonoscopy. You have to get this test done every 3 years. And anytime it's positive, this means you have to get a colonoscopy done. This is very different from a colonoscopy, in which if you have a normal or a negative test, you are good for 10 years. Yes, for 10 whole years. You don't have to worry about your colon. Now, the biggest concern I have are what are called the false positives and the false negatives for the COLOGUARD test. Now, I talked about this briefly, but I want you guys to really understand what is going on here. So a false positive test is a test that actually comes back as something going on inside your colon, but whenever we do something else like a colonoscopy, it ends up being normal. That rate is about 13%, meaning 13% of all the COLOGUARD tests that I see or that patients do actually end up having nothing in that colonoscopy. What's the big deal about that? Well, number one, there's that stress. If you are one of those 13%, knowing that something is growing inside your colon that could be cancer, this is, I'm sure, a very stressful time. But also on a more practical level, that falsely positive COLOGUARD test means that your colonoscopy will be changed from a screening test to a diagnostic test. And sometimes insurances may not cover that, where they would for a screening test. But also more importantly is the false negative rate. What this is that this means that the test is negative, but in actuality, something's growing inside your colon. The rate is about 8%. And there are unfortunately plenty of patients that have a normal COLOGUARD test and they actually end up having colon cancer growing at a time frame where if they got their colonoscopy done, they would not have had colon cancer. And this is very different from a colonoscopy, because in a colonoscopy, we give you a prep, we clean you out, we bring you up here to our center, we put you to sleep. We use the best medication out there, a medication called propofol. Oh, it's like manna from heaven. You fall asleep quickly, you wake up quickly under a trained CRNA or anesthesiologist. And during this procedure, we can find these polyps that are growing inside your colon and remove them at the time of the procedure. Yes, we'll get it done right then and there. Whenever we remove a polyp, it does not hurt. And if there's any issues, we can take care of it at that time. And a colonoscopy is such an accurate test. It can actually detect large polyps and cancers 95% of the time. Yes, baller status. This is what we do, guys. And once we remove that polyp, we'll take it out, send it to a pathologist, look at it under the microscope, and then determine when your next colonoscopy is going to be. So if you have a normal colonoscopy, everything's a-okay, you have a beautiful colon, and you don't have a family history, you are good for 10 years. If you have a family history of colon cancer, or we find some polyps, that may change to maybe 3 or 5 years, depending on what we find. So this is all you really need to know about getting a colonoscopy and what we have to go through, and some of the other options if you opt for that. My question today for you guys, what questions do you have about the colonoscopy, COLOGUARD, the stool testing? Comment down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button. You know you want to. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to a weekly newsletter where you can get great tips and tricks, and you can learn much more about your gut health. Guys, don't forget, let's talk about poop. See you guys.